We enter this week with some hoops to jump through, not to challenge us in so much as to clear away what isn't working anymore, to reevaluate where it is that we want to go, to ascertain and revise our values, and also to create a roadmap to continue forward in our soul journey. This week also presents a time when all planets will now be moving direct. So you may feel an inertia, a momentum to go forward. And this isn't a race, so stay tuned. Hey everyone, welcome to the weekly energy forecast for the week of January 22 to the 28th. I'm Christine. It's good to have you back here. Before we proceed, happy birthday to all my Aquarians. For the longest time, I've been saying Aquariuses, and I guess that's not really a word because the spell check corrected me many times in my notes. So happy birthday to all my Aquarius babies out there. I hope this is a month that brings you a lot of fulfillment, a lot of joy, blessings, and positive surprises. Just a reminder, all times are in Eastern Standard Time, New York City time for reference. Let's get started with the astrology. On January 22nd, we have the moon entering into Cancer. And I immediately channeled close comforts. So you may start the week off feeling very introspective, very much in your bubble or wanting to stay in your bubble, however you define that, because everyone defines it pretty differently. You could be staying at home or feeling a little bit more introverted with your energy, with your space, and simply with your time and who you share that with. There's an increased focus too on comfort, security, nurturance, and what that means to you going forward, especially with what you want to do or pursue in your life, changes you'd like to make, and also the people that you relate to. That's going to be really important. I know I've been repeating this ad nauseum for a while, but it's important to determine and tap into what feels good for you. Because there are some things that are not necessarily feeling always good for us, maybe things we don't like to do, like mundane chores and things like that. But there are other ways that we can rectify or change those routines, habits, and anything we have to engage in, activities, to make them a little bit more enjoyable. So really pay attention as the moon transits through Cancer. What feels good, what doesn't feel good, what makes you feel safe, and what doesn't make you feel safe. In particular, the who. This involves people as well. Something to pay attention to what you can do more of in order to really feel at peace or connected to the things that bring you joy, to the people that bring you joy, the activities, because that's some way that you can regain a sense of control and balance in your life. And I know balance is a pretty hot topic, and there's a lot of perhaps contestation around can we truly ever attain balance, etc. And I won't go down that rabbit hole, but balance, I think, is also very individual and it's relative depending on how you define it, because things are always in flux. On January 23rd, we have Venus moving into Capricorn. It would be awesome if all the planets always went through each sign together like a family, so we can get the power of that energy, right? But no, we have stragglers. Venus is all about love, romance, relationships, pleasures, our values, our worth, art, beauty, among many other topics, and money too, finances. Capricorn is all about ambition, practicality, goals, discipline, and commitment. So even though the energies appear at odds here, Venus is not in her detriment or fall in Capricorn. She just is. And that's not bad, especially if you have a natal placement, if you have your natal Venus in Capricorn. And right now, as we have Venus during this day transiting through Capricorn, Venus takes a more serious, long-term approach, I would say sustainable approach, when she is in Capricorn, because she's looking for long-term growth in this area, whether it's with relationships or money, thinking of how is this going to benefit me in the long term? What can I do to secure this? Are we compatible? Do we have similar values? Does this connect to my goals and larger ambitions in life? There's an air of loyalty, devotion, growth, but also a practical essence here. I almost felt like an adulting, a responsible adulting kind of energy here. We're serious about success. That's something I kept channeling over and over. And for any of you close to my age or older, you will probably remember this commercial from 1991. I'm going to link it. It was DeVry, the institution of higher learning. DeVry used to have commercials that they would repeat, we're serious about success. And I kept hearing that throughout this. And it's funny because in the clip that I'll link down below, you see the people wearing like business attire. So I got that energy with Venus. It doesn't mean there isn't any romance, but it's taken more in a serious long-term way, not in a superficial, what can we do to have fun, you know, during this short day together. It's more, is this person someone that I consider being with a long time with, or, you know, in 3-5 years? Is this the way that I want to invest my money, or do I want to do it in a way that's going to give me a better return? So that's the kind of energy that Venus in Capricorn brings. There's also a very deep emotional bond here because, again, Venus looks for long-term, sustainable growth. It's slow and steady, like building block energy in Capricorn. So there's an element here of coming together if you want to work on maybe solidifying your finances, working on your goals or your values, or even relationships. This is a great time to really look at things in a more realistic way, but also to strengthen them with this energy. It's not flighty at all, not superficial. This is not a let's just spend money for the hell of it. There's an intentional, concerted energy here. On the 24th of January, we have the moon in the void of course phase. And I mentioned that before in previous videos, but very briefly, this is similar to a retrograde energy when we have the moon in this period. And I'll note it's from 5:58 p.m. to 2:27 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So it's a large chunk. It's going to vary for many folks. Some of you will be sleeping during this time. Others will be awake, especially as we move eastward on the time zone calendar. So it's not really a good time to initiate or start anything new, but one that's more contemplative, reflective, for planning, strategizing, releasing, cleaning up, getting your shit together. It's that type of vibe. Anything important that you have to do, I would hold off, but always use your own intuition and your own discernment when it comes to this energy. Great time to relax or include or increase self-care activities, however you define it. Take time to connect to your own spiritual practices as well, and simply use this. It's almost like a dead space, if you will, where you can use this time for planning, for catching up. On the 25th of January, we have Venus in Capricorn squaring Chiron in Aries. We also have the full moon in Leo, and something that I kept getting was butting heads, because I kept seeing two goats on mountains just butting heads with one another. So with this Venus square Chiron, Mars, I don't know if I said Venus, it's Mars in Capricorn square Chiron in Aries. I've been having Venus on my mind since I was talking about Venus in Cap. There could be some difficulty or challenges or some tensions, perhaps an aggression too, with wounds and traumas coming up. It could be in connection to other males or masculine figures, but what I felt and channeled primarily was an anger. It's like a repressed anger where things come up, and it could be from people triggering you, or it could be simply things that are coming up through memories, reflection, and simply any experiences that bring up almost like an excavation of sorts that causes like a volcanic eruption. And I don't say that in terms of the correlation to anger, like the magnitude, but it just comes out. So it can be, again, anger on a scale, a small form of anger, or loud where you're just angry, you know, it's going to vary. So when I say that about the volcano, I simply mean it's erupting, it's coming up from below the surface, kind of like magma. When it goes out into the surface, it becomes lava. So Mars in Capricorn and Chiron in Aries, both of these signs, they're cardinal signs. So they initiate, they start seasons. And so there may be some type of tension here around trying to reconcile, maybe especially if this concerns other relationships, who's right, who isn't, what was said, what wasn't, especially if you're recounting something. And this isn't really a time to try to prove points, but more so ask yourself what you're feeling and what's coming up, you know, in order to process that. And I feel like with these energies, this is a great time to do this solo. Not everyone will agree, because I kept getting clash of waves. And almost when you get two cymbals or drums and you crash them together, it could create a cacophony of loudness, of sound. And I don't mean that just in terms of the sound itself, but also the energy, the vibrations. So it could create more of an emotional turmoil or mess than if you were to just be like, okay, I'm going to stay back. So again, repressed anger, hurt could be coming up during this time. Also, you could be more easily short-tempered, especially if some of these woundings relate to people that are close to you, especially since we have Chiron transiting Aries right now. There's something about peeling back from others or those external to you to self and bringing that back. This is, again, another optimal way, I should say, to really navigate what's coming up for you, what you're feeling, the emotions that are coming up, and asking yourself, how can you respond differently? Because when we have anger, and that's an emotion a lot of folks are very uncomfortable with, people see it as a negative thing, which it's really not. And people tend to either be very reactive or explosive in terms of how they express it. So there's different ways you can express it. And this is a way that you can take a pause and ask yourself, I'm feeling this. What can I do? And some suggestions include exerting yourself through some type of physical activity or exercise. You could punch the air. You could write. That's energy coming out, or journal and then burn it safely and allow that energy to be transmuted. You could cry. Crying is another release, because underneath anger, for a lot of folks, there's pain. So think about when you feel it and when that's coming up, what you can do differently about it, and not necessarily be reactive or target that anger or energy towards someone. The full moon in Leo, I will do a separate video about this, but this is really relating to your soul, to yourself, and your ambitions at large, and how you're changing. Because again, these lunations are all connected to one another. Think of a domino or a Lego with those little pieces. When you connect Legos, it's like a little train. They're all connected. So it almost carries over the energies from previous lunations. And there's different things that we are learning and perhaps progressing in our lives and carrying over, and simply just trying to be human and trying to adult, because it's a cycle. This stuff repeats. On the 26th of January, we have Mercury in Capricorn squaring Chiron in Aries. So again, before we had Mars, now we have Chiron. So 2 double kickers this week. And we have the moon going void, of course, from 4:19 p.m. until 2:11 p.m. the next day, January 27, Eastern Standard Time. So similar to Mars, this is also bringing up woundings and traumas, perhaps on how you express or communicate. And it could be too the way that you, especially in relationships, the way that you communicate towards others with things that you're remembering or connecting to, things that are wounding you, particularly triggers, they may be highlighted during this time. And something that helps me, which is why I always ask these questions and state them, is how can you express yourself differently, especially if it doesn't lead to the outcome that you desire? When you're angry or feeling hurt and pain is coming up, whether it's related to your family system, it could be your nuclear family, it could be the ancestral family, it could be the larger family unit that you're in now, it could be your environment, different systems or levels of, you could say, of analysis, but also too in conjunction to your culture and traditions and so many other forms. As you're going through that, ask yourself, in what ways have I expressed myself before, especially when I was triggered or feeling hurt, or remembering certain things that weren't fruitful, that really didn't help me, but they hurt me in some way. Because many times we're very reactive. We may scream or yell at someone, say nasty things, or use expletives, or direct that anger because we're hurt. So this is a wonderful time to ask yourself, in what ways have I grown in these areas? What's coming up for me still? What small snafu here? And I don't say that to demean anyone or offend anyone, but what snafu here is coming up that keeps repeatedly coming up, because it's highlighting to you, wait, there's still some work here. Also with Chiron, some astrologers have different views about this, but with Chiron, it's the wounded healer. And some say you can heal this and then help others, and others say this is a wound that's not something that you can heal ever. It's something that you're dinged at, but you learn to approach it and you grow in different ways, almost in a mature adulting type of way, where you're able to now respond instead of react, and you can guide and help other people with the same type of wounding as well. So however you navigate this and whichever belief you take on, think about how you would respond to this in the past, especially with what's coming up and what's being navigated through, and what you can do differently, because the different part is going to make the biggest impact. Maybe instead of calling someone and confronting them, you could say, you know what, I'm taking a step back and I'm going to take time to process this on my own and see what comes up, because time is actually one of the best healers, as long as we don't continuously hold on to those narratives or stories. There's also, with this energy, the likelihood of rumination. That's another thing. We may bring up or dredge up or feel like memories are coming back to us, and we may hook onto them and then go down a rabbit hole. Ever experience that, where you start thinking about something and it takes you to something else, and soon you're just like upset, going back in the past, reliving things, and you're like, how the hell did I get here? Just be careful of that, because if you're triggered, this is important to just be aware. If you can catch yourself during that moment and say, whoa, wait a minute, this is bothering me. It's going to allow you to simply pause, and that's it. Different ways that you can work through this, and these are simply suggestions, are through journaling, different artistic or creative endeavors like poetry, dancing, something that allows you to express yourself. Could be writing as well, songwriting, again, journaling, writing through stories if that's what you do. I also have here therapy or talking to a friend, and any psychosomatic expression. It could be movement, dancing, breath work, and things like that. So this is really about rewriting the story of your life where you've experienced a lot of pain, trauma, wounding, so that you don't have to keep feeling that ding over and over. You can say, you know what, this shit happened. And everyone's going to be at different levels here. This shit happened. There's nothing I can do about it. But you have to process it. You can't just go through it. That's the thing. Or go around it, I should say. Process it and feel it. And the more that you take time to work through it, as long as you don't re-traumatize yourself, and I highly recommend working with someone you trust and just using your own intuition here on what feels good for you, because everyone has so many different ways and modalities that they consult when it comes to healing, that's going to allow you to move forward and to finally say, yeah, I see that ding, I see that trigger, but it doesn't have that power or control over me like it did before. Again, on the 27th, we have the void of course moon. So there's going to be a lot of time, especially buffering Mars and Mercury squaring Chiron this week, with time to contemplate, time to integrate, time to allow things to just be, to process, to reflect. This is a really beautiful time to, again, engage or re-engage or initiate, perhaps start a spiritual practice if you haven't, with meditation, with stillness or silence, or simply time alone, where you don't have any extraneous chaos, noise, information around you, people, nothing. It's just you and your thoughts. On the 27th of January, again, the void of course moon continues. Like I stated, we have the sun in Aquarius squaring Jupiter in Taurus, and then we have Uranus stationing direct. We have Mercury in Capricorn conjoining Mars in Capricorn. So there's a tension here about wanting to move forward. You know when you're ready, but there's still some cleanup or still some last minute things you have to do. And I feel like, especially with the sun squaring Jupiter, we may want to move forward with all of these ambitious goals or plans or desires, and it conflicts with just having too much energy and perhaps overcommitting. It's that energy of saying, yes, this is everything that I want to lay out and do and plan and go towards, but we may say that in a way where we're not really looking at things in a practical manner, regardless of Jupiter being in Taurus, because Taurus is a very sensual energy, a very sensual sign, and it focuses to, or perhaps connects to indulgences, since it is ruled by Venus. So there's something here where we have to be careful about thinking we can go forward with everything. This is not the same thing as saying don't dream big, but really take, especially in this moment, in this season, ask yourself, what's the most important thing that I can do? And what are some things that I would love to do? And I can reconnect to them at a later juncture, because sometimes it could lead to disappointment here. It could also lead to burnout or overexhaustion with this energy. And if you're feeling like you're taking on too much, you probably are. So check in with yourself during this time. I kept getting one tasking because I kept seeing one snail. So this is an important time too. If you're feeling like there's so much that's calling to you and you're going all over the place, bring back your energy. And that's what we mean when we say like center yourself and focus on one thing in front of you that you're doing and allow yourself to complete that, whether it's completing the entire project or process or just during that time frame that you put your energy towards. Complete that and then move on to the next. Uranus Stationing Direct in Taurus. Time is now. I feel like the switch, we're going to feel like a heavy switch. You know, breakers, when the electricity goes out in different parts of your home and you have to go to the unit, the box with the breakers, and you turn it on again. That's what I got with Uranus here. The big breaker is coming here. So expect the unexpected. You may feel an electrical recharge because Uranus is connected to the nervous system as well. You may feel changes, shifts. I feel like they're going to be profound epiphanies too, and insights coming to you psychically as well. This is about gaining freedom and liberation, perhaps from the mundane, from things that have expired, things that you're wanting to leave and get out of or completely finish and do something new. This is also the energy of, okay, it's time to move forward and take risks in a new way and do things in a different way, especially wherever Taurus is transiting in your natal chart right now. It's in Taurus. So wherever Taurus is. I kept getting the energy too when you're driving and you realize you make a sharp right because you decide this is where I want to go, not straight. This is the very last planet to go direct. So now every planet will be going direct as of January 27th, 2024 until March 14th when we have the first Mercury retrograde in Aries starting. So you may feel a significant momentum forward. And I feel like some of the squares that are coming up, they're dinging to you, particularly for those that have been in cycles that are repeating situations where you're like, why the hell does this keep happening to me? When things keep happening, ask yourself, what am I doing? What are the things that I'm doing in that container, in that situation, or in that process? And what can I do differently? Because more than likely, there's something that has to be tweaked so an outcome, a different outcome occurs. And so there's going to be a significant push forward. You may be feeling that this week into the latter part of, or end of this week, I should say, especially wherever you have Aquarius, Pisces, and Aries ruling over your chart. So this is a time to go forward, not backwards, you all. And like I've mentioned in previous videos, great time to solidify your goals, whether you make New Year's goals or goals in general or some type of strategy for this year. I feel like so many folks are extremely ambitious, and I don't say that in a positive way. I'm trying to frame this, and sometimes my framing doesn't come out correct or in an understandable way. But I feel like so many folks, they're like, okay, time to make goals. Let's have 3 goals from every section of our life, and then they have like 15 goals for the year, and I'm like, what the hell? It's overwhelming. So I really encourage you to prioritize the perhaps top 3 most important things macro collectively for the year that is going to make the biggest impact, whether that's health, finances, relationships, or career, home, family, whatever it is. Have some type of roadmap that you are creating that's really connected to what it is that you desire to see at the end of 2024. Because now with the planets going direct, and as we head into February and into the Lunar New Year, we are going to, energetically, this to me is like in gaining traction and momentum forward towards making progress towards some of our goals, especially as we head towards the spring equinox. With Mercury conjoining Mars in Capricorn, again, solidify your plan. Great time to really take time to yourself, coffee, tea, and simply ask yourself, what is it that I want to pursue and accomplish? What do I want to change? What would have the biggest impact this year in my life if I were to change or pursue that, or take a risk, or start that, or even stop that. And really just make a game plan. Just ask yourself, what would you like to accomplish? And if you're interested, if anyone's interested in a separate video on goals or planning, let me know. This energy really amps us up, where we may finally say, you know what, Chiron, kiss my behind. I got this. You know, I'm going to put this energy towards new ways of doing things, towards empowering myself, towards going after what I want, but not in an overwhelming way. Excellent time again to finalize this plan in this year. On the 28th, we have, here comes Venus, Venus in Capricorn, sextiling Saturn in Pisces, Mercury in Capricorn, trining Uranus in Taurus. We have Venus again in Cap, trining Jupiter in Taurus. And I saw Olivia Newton-John song, Let's Get Physical. You know, in the 1980s, she was, you know, the 1980s exercise garb. I kept seeing that in my head. So this energy is about being tenacious, disciplined, following through, making a plan, and taking a step-by-step, slow and steady approach towards building what it is that you want, especially around Venusian themes, around values, relationships, finances, and cleaning up things. So simultaneously, while we're creating a plan to move forward, we're also letting go. We're also getting rid of. It's kind of like when you move. For any of you that have ever moved homes, this is the energy. You're boxing up things to take with you while you're also probably getting rid of items, throwing them away, donating them, etc. That's the energy here. With Mercury trine Uranus, the sky's the limit. Be open to new resources, knowledge, messages coming through, exchanges with others, especially with technology and things you consult. You may be surprised at what is going to help you this week. Perhaps you have a question or you're seeking clarity and you're going to get it through these means. This may also impact your goals moving forward. So it's about moving. A lot of the energy as we shift into February, it's about doing things differently. So if you've been doing something the same way and you're like, I'm not seeing results, take time out and ask yourself, how can I do this differently? If you're not drinking water, for example, and you want to increase your water intake, and simply saying drink water is not helping you, how can you do it differently? Maybe try adding fruits or sliced veggies in your water. Get a new water container, one that you like, not one that just looks pretty too, one that's functional and practical for you and your needs. And that's just an example. And with this Venusian theme, this is also more of a social energy. So you may get inspiration too by hanging out with others, sharing and working on your goals perhaps, connecting with friends and loved ones, and simply gaining inspiration around these topics that I've mentioned. Coming up next week, we have a relatively quiet week. And again, I don't really include a lot of the lunar transits with some of the other planets because they're so fast moving and they're going to impact everyone differently. And I suggest you look at your natal chart rather than collective. I give more of a collective energy or macro level energy outlook. On February 2nd, we have the third quarter moon in Scorpio. So I've got a few cards here. I pulled the Ancestors and Angels Oracle and the Archangel Michael Oracle to see anything else we need to know for this week ahead. Okay, thank you. You guys, my thing keeps bouncing. My apologies. Anything else we need to know for this week? I want to say too, on this spiritual journey, since I take a very spiritual approach to astrology as well, it's okay to feel like you're crying a lot. It's okay to release emotions because there's a lot of that happening, especially with Pluto leaving or having left Capricorn and ingressing into Aquarius, at least at the time that I'm filming this, which I'm doing a little bit earlier. On the 20th, it'll be moving into Aquarius until September, and then leaving Aquarius in November, excuse me, leaving Capricorn in November and permanently stationing in Aquarius. I can't talk while I shuffle. Let's get a final Archangel Michael card. I'm just pulling all the cards right now. Oh, it flipped. Okay. Let's look at the tarot cards. We've got Eight of Wands, fire energy, Aries, Leo, Sag. This is called the Tarot for Kids deck. It's an extremely peaceful energy. Got a lot of lunar energy with this deck. We got Five of Swords. Look at this. There's a ferocity here. To me, this is an expression of anger, especially with pain. Some of you are done. You're dropping the swords. So in other words, this really taps into the Chiron element that I already went into detail because I feel like I focused a lot on the astrology here and went quite a bit into the wounding aspect of Mars and Mercury squaring Chiron this week. So the energies here, I feel like many of you are ready to drop this, or you're ready to confront this in a new way, but there's a word that's slipping by. It's an effervescent way. Of course, my heat comes on. You know when you put a denture tablet, well, I don't wear dentures, but I've seen the commercials, and it fizzles or sizzles. It does that little thingy, you know? Sizzles. That's what I'm getting here. Some of you this week, you may have an epiphany, especially with the Uranian, supportive Uranian energy here, where you're like, you know what? This is it. I'm going to do things in a different way. I can't do this anymore. I wouldn't be surprised, especially with the Uranus energy, where you may have changes of heart in how other people treat you, how you relate to others, and how you interchange or interrelate with other people. The same thing when it comes to woundings, because generally we are triggered through other people. It's not like a bird comes and it triggers us. I mean, for most folks, I'm saying this broadly or generally. So this week, I feel like there's as much energy in wanting to tackle this and overcome this as there is in expressing it and letting it go. You know, when you've been holding on to something so tightly and you let go and you just feel a heaviness leave you, you feel lighter. For some of you, this revolves around certain traumas and wounds you have been holding on to. And perhaps this is linked to your identity or who you were. It could be part of your family system, who you thought you were, who you thought you were going to be, but you're changing and things are changing around you and where you're going is changing. So there's an energy here of releasing that and letting go. A lot of it's concerted, intentional energy and expression and outwards and external movement of that. I feel like you're going to be going past it, but you're going to be moving past this wounding and finding a new way to empower yourself. With the Ancestors and Angels deck, we've got Elder. Maybe that's why I brought up the dentures. Some of you may connect, some of you, and you don't have to be an older adult to have dentures. But I brought it up because I kept seeing someone put the little denture tablets in a cup, and I kept seeing it fizzle. I think it's fizzle or sizzle. There's bubbles, in other words. Move beyond ancestral patterns. Look at this. Some of these I'll just tell you guys, because I've been on the same journey working through these wounds. Many of these wounds are related to the larger family system that you're part of, adopted or bio. And some of you are going to have both. If you are adopted, you're also having to undertake your biological family as well. And it's heavy because if you're seeing this, you're probably the latest leaf or the one that is tackling this energy and healing it. And so it could be trying, it could be difficult, and there's several iterations of that. Connecting to ancestors, especially at the start of the week with the moon in Cancer, may be particularly helpful, nurturing for many of you. You may want to simply light a candle. One of the simplest ways, the way that I approach connecting to my ancestors, I just talk to them and I light a candle and I have their pictures here. You can connect to them and simply pray to them and talk to them like you would, like I'm talking to you. And you can ask them for support, assistance, guidance, and be open to what comes up. I feel like many folks are connecting to ancestors at this time, and they're helping transmute this. Some of you may relate to the snake, armadillo, lizard, or turtle animals. A lot of transformation happening. A lot of clearing out happening. There's an element of pushing forward. For the final for the final Archangel Oracle, we have this message, 27, which reduces to a 9. Regain your focus. Trivial life matters are distracting you from your goals. Archangel Metatron and I, Archangel Michael, are here to help you stay grounded. Be careful of things that distract you, like repeating things. Take a look at repeating cycles. If you're saying, oh my God, not this shit again, whether it's with work, jobs, relationships, people, situations. Just pay attention to what's happening and what you're being asked to learn. Sometimes just taking a time out is going to be particularly helpful to allow you to gain that internal insight for yourself. You all, I hope this reading has helped with the astrology this week. I feel like entering 2024 was heavier than most folks anticipated, perhaps. There's a lot we're carrying over, and we're expunging, we're healing, we're integrating and transmuting. And the cycle, it keeps going. And so this path that many of us are on, it's not rainbows and cupcakes and sprinkles. It's really about finding different forms of joy within yourself while you're doing this work. It's a lot of, I would say, solitary healing, understanding yourself from a different way, a lot of compassion, holding space for yourself, to being pausing and taking time to just think things through. Comment down below what's been going on for you. I'd love to hear from you. I'm wishing you all a beautiful healing week. I know you can get through this. Never give up, no matter what's happening to you. I kid you not, my year has started off wonky. I'm like, okay, my goal is to simply show up no matter what. Take care. I'll see you soon.